We're still using the foldable we've been using, but now we're working on the bottom of this foldable. Okay, so we have 0 exponents. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Even if it's something like ridiculously crazy, x to the 3, y to the 7, and then 100, well, 1,000, okay? And if it's to the 0 power, this whole thing equals 1, because that 0 encompasses the entire parentheses. What? Okay. Next up, we got exponents. We always want to make them positive. So if you have a regular base with a negative exponent, it becomes a bottom base. So I have my students draw arrows whenever we have negative bases, so we know we need to move them. If the base at the bottom has a negative exponent, it becomes a top base. Okay? Because remember, this is the same as like over 1. This is the same as over 1. Those are the same thing as putting them over 1. So we're just moving them to the bottom. In this one, this guy, we moved it to the top. All right? But remember, we don't write over 1. It makes you look silly. Now let's start with negative exponents. All right, so we have p to the negative 8 over p to the 3rd. So, right, I'm going to keep my fraction bar here. This needs to move to the bottom. So what that means is p to the 3rd stays where it's at, but this whole base and p to the 8th moves to the bottom and becomes positive. And we can't just leave the top blank. You got to put a 1 up there. And then I can simplify this further. We have 11 p's down here, so we have 1 over 11p. This one, b to the negative 4 over b to the negative 5, right? So b to the negative 4 moves down to become positive, so we have b to the 4th. Then we have b to the negative 5th moves upstairs, so b to the positive 5. And from here, I can do some simplifying. Who's got more, top or bottom? The top has more and has more by 1, but remember that makes you look silly. So it's just a b. And we don't have to put it over 1, all right? Again, all of this makes you look silly. So just a b. Let's look at this next thing here. All right, so I got this negative exponent. All right, and it's attached to this whole thing. So this whole thing is going to move up. So we're going to have a, b, parentheses, and now it's a positive 2. That whole thing moves up. My a squared and b to the 3rd that stayed there. Oops. I wrote it backwards, my bad. That's still the same. Everything's up top now. There's no need to write anything on the bottom. And then I distribute this, right? This 2. So now we have a squared, b squared. This became a squared, b squared, b to the 3rd, and a to the 2nd. And that simplifies. We have 4 a's, and we have 5 b's. Okay? So just in case, this became a squared, b squared. All right, let's do another one. So in this next one here, my negative is inside of the parentheses. So what I want to do is I want to distribute first. You don't want to move it until you've distributed. Whereas like this one, the negative was outside holding everything, and I brought all of it up. Here, the negative's on the inside, so I have to distribute first before I continue. So let's do that. This gives me, so I gave the 6 a 1 exponent and the b a 1 exponent, so it gives me 6 squared a to the negative 2, b to the 2. And if I distribute on one side, I might as well distribute on the other. We'll distribute this guy out. This gives me b to the 4th. Okay? All right, so because of this negative exponent, I'm gonna bring him down. So 6 squared stays up top, b squared stays up top. And now we have b to the fourth still there, but that a moved to the bottom and became positive. And now I just got some simplifying to do. So I'm gonna scoot back over. I'm going this way, just so you guys know. We have 6 squared. B, who's got more? The B on the bottom has more. A doesn't have any friends, so he just stays where he's at. This is a great answer, but this is an even better answer when I write 6 squared simplified out. Okay? All right, why don't you guys give this one a go and see how you do? All right, in this one, I got a final answer of 1. So first things first, this whole thing had a negative exponent, so I moved that whole thing to the top. That's what this is. This had a negative exponent, so I brought it down. This had a negative exponent, so I brought it down. Okay, I distributed the 1, so this gives me m squared t to the third. M squared and t to the third stays how it is, but same and same base and exponent, same base, same exponent for the t's. So all that I left with is a 1. If everything cancels out, it's just 1. You might have struggled with that. Sorry. Here we go. Try this one and see how you do. All right, this one, I get a final answer of m to the third negative 2 to the third n to the 10th, or m to the third negative 8 n to the 10th. Okay? Now what I did was I moved my negatives first, and this negative was on the outside of the parentheses, so this whole piece came down. M to the negative 6 moved to the top, n to the fourth stayed where he was at. Then I distributed to the parentheses, and I kept this in a parentheses because we have to be careful, right? If you multiply negative 2 3 times, you get a negative 8, okay? And if you don't put your answer inside of or if you don't put it inside of parentheses when you cube it, you could get the wrong answer. Like in this case, it would be right, but let's say if we did an even number, like let's say we did 2. Negative 2 squared says negative 4, but negative 2 times negative 2 isn't negative 4, it's a positive 4. This is on the left side on the number line, this is on the right side. So just be careful. You always want to make sure you put the parentheses into your calculator when you're dealing with negative regular numbers. All right, so that is negative exponents, right? We did negative exponents. Let's do zeros. Zeros are a lot easier. So no matter what, if it's got a 0, then it's 1, a nice number 1. So if we have 2 to the 5th, right? 2 to the 5th stays how it is. 2 to the 0 is 1, but we don't write that. That looks silly, so we just write it as 2 to the 5th, which simplifies to 32. In this next one here, m to the 0 is 1, and then we have m to the 4th, and that's it. This next one here, this 0 encompasses this whole parentheses, so that's equal to 1 over, we have 4w to the negative 1y squared. Well, we know how to deal with negatives now, so this negative moves up, so we have w over 4y squared. You can write w to the 1, that looks silly, but w over 4y squared looks better, okay? Let's look at this one. We have x to the 4th. Y to the 0 is just multiplying by 1. That's what this is. Over x to the negative 6. Well, we know how to deal with negatives. This negative moves up. So really, we have now x to the 4th, x to the 6th. Times 1 doesn't change anything, so I'm going to drop it. This gives me x to the 10th. You don't need to write times 1. It's all right. The only time you really need that 1 is if it's the only thing left at the top. All right, let's look at this next bit. All right, this whole thing has a 0 exponent, so that's a 1 times u squared over r1t squared u to the 7th. We can simplify. We got a bunch of u's, so we got 1 over rt squared. There's more u's on the bottom, and there's 5 more. So we're done. This last one here, this whole thing has an exponent 0. So the answer is 1. That's the end of this video, y'all. Have a good day.